Hi everybody, Jerry Bellini here from Recycle Parts for Art. Welcome to Learn the Little House. Yeah, it's been a long time and I'm going to take my time in this video, so you might need to fast forward every once in a while, but I don't want to forget anything. So, I came out of hiding to share something with you that I came across the other day that I absolutely fell in love with. It touched my heart. I was on Instagram, and let me back up a second and say that, you know, with everything that's going on lately, everybody's coping in their own way, and my coping mechanism has me continuously moving. And so I've been refinishing furniture and painting and that kind of thing. I really found it hard to sit still. So in between my painting, I would take a break, and my break involved picking up my phone and scrolling through Instagram, and, you know, just to get a little hit of art. Anyhow, I came across this post that really, I was like, oh man, that looks really cool. And it was a post by Shelly Sazima. I think, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Shelly. And she goes by the name of Be Kind / Have Fun. And anything I mention, I'll put links in the description box below. So anyway, and forgive the background noise, Brian's doing some work on the house. Anyway, it really touched me. It was 4 of these pins. Her post was just like this, 4 pins. And I thought, oh, they're so cute. And I stopped to read, you know, her description. And she went on to say how she thought, wouldn't it be awesome, you know, to have something for the caregivers of the virus. So, you know, hospital workers, nursing home people, anybody actually. People that work in the grocery store, I think, are caregivers. Because I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be working with the public right now. So I really want to thank anybody who does that from the very bottom of my heart. Anyway, Shelly thought, you know, this would be super fun. So she made these 4 pins and talked about it a little bit. And I thought, what a great idea. So I contacted her and we got talking back and forth. And I said, you know what? How are you going to give them to people? Like, what were you going to do? And she said, I don't know. I think I was going to just write something on an index card and, you know, pin them onto an index card, that kind of thing. So one thing led to another. And that night when I went to bed, I couldn't stop thinking about this. And I felt like this was something that I really needed to do. So I got up the next morning and I made cards on my computer to put the pins on. And I told Shelly about it, and I also asked her if she could, you know, come up with a hashtag, because I thought other people were going to want to use the idea. So her hashtag is heartsforcaregivers. And don't forget the S, like I did originally. All right, so anyway, I started making, you know, the pins, and realized that this could be like a big thing. Like, we could all make these pins and we could all give them to our caregivers. And wouldn't it be really nice to do that? So I asked Shelly if she had a YouTube channel, and she does not. So I said I would love to make a video and share this. And so here I am. If you're interested in the cards, I do have them. I started a blog not too long ago. It's just a couple weeks ago because I was bored. And no, I wasn't bored. I just felt like starting a blog. And anyway, they're on my blog right now, so you can print them out. I made 2 different kinds. Actually, I made several different kinds. One kind is, this is plain down here at the bottom. So you could write your own message if you like. I have a scripture verse down here on mine. And the other one has scripture verses and there's 6 different ones because there's actually 6 cards on here. And then the third one that I made has a much wider card. That was my first prototype. So I'm just going to leave it there in case you want a wider card, in case you don't have the pins that I have, and you know, you have bigger pins, you want to make them bigger. So there you have that. We'll get back to that in a second. So let me show you how to make these pins. I was making them with 1 layer of fabric, so I'm just going to slide these out of the way. And then I was looking at Shelly's pretty closely, and I realized she was using 2, so I started making them with 2. They're cute as all get out with 2, but you don't need to have 2 layers of fabric. So I'm using cotton, and I'm ripping the strips because I like the frayed edges. You can cut your strips if you want to do that. If you're going to use 2 strips, you know, if you have a lot of fabric like I do and you want to use 2 strips, it just looks more dimensional. Cut one strip a little smaller, a little narrower than the other. And the size of the strips, it's about, the background strip is about 1.25 inches, and the top strip is about 1 inch. So it just kind of peeks out a little bit. I'll show you some of the ones I did. So I'm doing this kind of assembly line because I want to make a lot of them. And so I'm just sitting and ripping strips and then sitting and cutting hearts and that kind of thing. So I think I did say that the pin was 1.5 inches size. But if you have smaller pins, if you have bigger pins, just adjust the size of your strips. That's all. And you can get these pins on Amazon if you don't have any pins at all. You kind of do need a pin. The rest of the stuff you can work around, and I'll show you. I have a couple workarounds to show you as well. So once I have like all this, I cut my hearts out. Sorry about that background noise, my dogs. So I made a little template just to make my life a little easier, and I'm using wool. And if you don't have wool, you can use quilt batting. That's what Shelly's using. You could also just use cotton and just cut it out. I found that this gives a little more stability, and I just like the way it looks. I had an old wool skirt. Don't ask me where it was from. And I washed it to felt it, and then I cut it apart. So I did do that for one of the colors, this color. But use what you have. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're very creative, and you don't have to use wool. So I took my little heart template, and this is just a file folder, and I traced around it. And you want to cut these out because they're pretty small. You want to cut them out with a small scissor. I'm just reaching. So I have this small scissor. It's just easier because they're so tiny. So before you even cut any of your fabric out, you want to make sure that your heart fits on your strips, because if you had to make any adjustments in size. And to be honest with you, I don't even use the template anymore. I've cut so many of these out. I just cut them. What I do is I cut out little squares like this because I have big pieces of fabric. So I have these big pieces. So I just cut out little squares, and then I sit down and just cut out like 1,000,000 hearts. So I have a tray full of hearts over here to my left. I won't bother showing you them. All right, so that's the hearts. Let's see. All right, so now once I've got all this laid out and I've got my heart on each one of these, you know, and I do like to try to make the colors look nice. Why not, right? We're having a good time. Then I'm going to stitch it together, and that doesn't take hardly any time at all. And I'm using this embroidery floss, but again, you can use anything. And this is a 6 ply, and I separated out to 2 ply. And I have a couple of these needled. I have a couple of these threaded, I should say, with different colors. so that when I'm sitting down to do the stitching part, I can just change out my color and keep moving. I can make a lot of these in a sitting. I've made, let's see, I just started making them. I probably have made about 50 or 60 of them by now. Okay. So here's my pin, and I start in the middle of the heart, the upper middle part of the heart, up there. And you can do any stitch you want. Heck, you don't even have to do stitches if you don't want to. You can just glue it down. But I like the stitching. It's very meditative. So I'm going to go all the way around. And there's a reason I start up here in this middle part, so bear with me. I always try to choose a color thread that, you know, that matches or is complementary. And I don't always use this little, I don't know, it looks like a button stitch, but I don't think it's a button stitch. The whip stitch, you always whip stitch. Sometimes I'll go like this. And just do a straight stitch. And then if I feel like it's boring, the heart, like when I'm finished, then I'll go back and I'll put a little kiss on it. I actually like that. Most of them I'm going to go back and put a kiss on. Okay, so now when you get back up to the top, you want to just put your needle down, and we're just sewing through these 2 layers. Okay, and then pick up your pin, and you want to make sure that you open your pin and you put the fabric over this part of the pin. Not like I did when I first made them. I had the pins closed. And I was putting them on here. Such an idiot. Anyway. All right, so now I didn't even cut my thread off, okay? This is how quick I'm doing it. So now I'm going to slip my needle between the two layers, and I'm going to come out up at the top, just underneath the pin, okay? And then I'm just going to do a quick little straight stitch across the top just to hold this piece of fabric on here. And I think they're cuter if the stitches aren't even and if they're crooked, and that's what I think. You could actually, you could sit down and stitch them all on your sewing machine too if you wanted to. But I'm enjoying the process of slow stitching. So when I'm at the end, I come out on the top and I use it as a design element, and I just grab some of the fabric and make a knot, and I do that twice. Okay, make sure you pull it nice and tight so that it's, oh, my dogs are listening to something outside. And I cut it off. I leave about 1/4 inch tail. And I just think it's so cute. And you don't have to worry if the fabric on here is exactly the right width, because it's so giving, and it'll slide around. It's no big deal. So let me show you then. Next is putting it on the card. So when you cut these cards out, let me grab one of these papers. When you cut these cards out, you probably can't see this, but there's a very fine line. If you use mine, there's a very fine line here, and I left that. Let me get a different one. Yeah, that's the wider one that I made originally. So there's a very fine line here, and that's your cutting line. If you want all your cards to be the same size, cut on that line, and there's a space in between here, so you have some room, for error, so you don't cut off the words. I use a rotary cutter to do this, or my slicing machine. And the thing you want to be real careful about is cutting this line here on top of Dear Caregivers. You want to cut right on that line if you can, because when you don't, okay, so here's one that wasn't cut exactly, like there's the line and there's this big header, and here's one that's cut on the line correctly. If you don't cut it correctly, when you go to put the holes in, if you're using one of these hole punches, you're not going to be able to get down to where you need to get. You're going to be punching into the words. Does that make sense? I hope so. So I just wanted to show you that. And so just put your 2 holes in the center if you can. And then just stick this on here like that. And what I am taking a minute to do, and you don't have to, because the pins flop around a little bit, I'm taking a minute and putting some washi tape on the back just to hold it down. But you don't have to do that. The other thing Shelley suggested, don't even punch holes. Just put a piece of washi tape over the pin. Just like that. And I thought that's a really cool idea too. So then you don't have to worry about the top of the card, you know, being trimmed properly. So there you have it. 2 different ways. All right. You don't have any fabric, you don't have any thread, you don't have anything. Okay, you got paper, I know you do, because you're mixed media artists. So I took a piece of book text. I took a piece of book text. This is the one I used, just because I wanted to try it. And I glued 2 pieces of book text together. Now, don't use fragile book text. Use newer book pages if you have them. Just use paper that's halfway decent. You could probably use scrapbook paper too. You could use any kind of paper. Just make sure it's not real fragile. And glue 2 sheets together. You want it to have a little bit of a better consistency, a better thickness. And then once 2 so this is just 1, but just pretend it's 2. Then you're just going to rip your paper or cut it. Okay? And fold it over. Now this one's already glued. You're going to fold it over your pin, and instead of stitching across the top, so I just used my my black marker. That dog, I'm going to go out there and choke the life out of him, and made a little design there. And these are not real stitches, these are just my pen. So then what I did is I opened this up. Now this one's already glued. So I opened it up and I just hit it with the glue stick so that it would stay, it won't fall off the pin. And that's it. And that's cute too. So if you don't have any fabric, you can make paper ones. Right? Okay. And you can make 20 other kinds. If you can think of other ideas, let me know. And that's the other thing. I would really, really, really like you to tag me. Post them on Facebook and Instagram and tag me. And I bet Shelley would like it if you tagged her too. And her link will be in my description box below. And her name again is BeKind_have fun. She's on Instagram. I don't know if she's on Facebook too. Oh, I forgot to say about the paper one. This is a piece of paper that I cut out, but you could draw something on there. You could do the whole thing, you know, with a doodle, right? Like that. That's what I did. I just glued it down. I used a glue stick too, so super simple. What else? I guess that's about it. If you have any questions, if I missed something, just leave them in the comments below, please. And this was fun to make this video for you, and maybe I'll see you again soon. And I hope everyone has a blessed day full of love and recycled art. Bye for now.